Our presentation today will be on how to select a software development approach to a particular project. When it comes to software development, choosing the types that are utilized in an organization is an important decision that cannot be taken lightly, as it is something that can have far-reaching implications depending on how that software is utilized. There are three main types of either software development or acquisition. These primarily are Agile method, the waterfall method, and off-the-shelf acquisition of software. When it comes to the decision of buying versus building software, there are a number of things that need to be kept in the back of one's mind. When buying software outright, the initial cost for setup and purchase may not seem to be too much until looking at the cost for maintenance, upkeep, and different things of that nature. Because of these different things, purchasing it outright can be an attractive option for a project until one looks at the maintenance and the upkeep that may come with it, as well as updates and different features that may not be included. All of these ancillary charges can turn a potentially profitable option into one that will end up hurting the bottom line in the end. Building software, on the other hand, allows the company to completely customize the way that the software is created, utilizing only the features that will be used and scrapping the ones that will not be. In addition to this, the upkeep can be minimal because there can be better workflow and competitive edges with software that the competitors may not have access to that your own software developers may be able to utilize. This obviously can be extremely attractive to stakeholders and other entities that may have skin in the game, so to speak. That we'll be talking about is the waterfall development method. Through this method, using the waterfall structure, it relies on a number of different things for the development to be effective. As you can see in the diagram below, the waterfall development method has a number of different steps that look like a cascading waterfall as they move in kind of a linear and unidirectional movement across the board. This allows for sequential development stages to be established, each phase needing to be completed before moving on to the next. The model relies on customer documents to clearly define goals and build software in the specific ways that they are outlined. Quality is checked at each stage, and there is a strict process and planning in order to progress the plan. If quality control checks are not completed, or if a certain phase of the model is not performed to expectation, the entire model cannot and will not move forward until those quality assurance checks are completed. The first step in the model is requirement gathering and analysis, which consists of a document that guides the project's progress, much like an outline, as well as its implementation timeline and the potential for its progress, including how much downtime, how much time between steps, things of this nature. The document is provided by the customer and allows the software developer to understand the customer's requirements much more thoroughly and on paper so that there is no question of missing expectations or things like that. The next stage of the design of the system is design, which comes next, where the software developer will convert the requirements into a suitable form that allows for further coding of the program. The design phase ensures that the program, language, hardware, data, and services which range from general to detailed, are compiled into a software design document. The stage that comes after this is implementation, and very closely after that followed by testing, where all the modules and code are implemented and then tested in their function in order to check the interactions between that data and the way that they are supposed to function to make sure that they are performing as expected. The testing and the implementation of code have to go hand in hand so that there are alpha, beta, and acceptance testing phases, much like any other software, much like a video game. In alpha testing phases, there's a much more base product, whereas through beta, changes from the developers and from feedback from the users will be established to make a much more cohesive product. After this testing is done extensively and the final product is judged as adequate in its output, development and maintenance comes up next, the final two steps, where the bugs that need to be fixed or addressed, the product is further improved to meet all of the customer's expectations, and then the program will be adapted to see how it handles in other environments to make sure that it's stable. Advantages of this style include simple in its design and its function, quite easy to use, and that everything moves in a linear fashion or a single direction. It can be extremely meticulous in its development, and there leaves little room for error due to its management style. For disadvantages, however, because of its linearity, it does not leave room for much revision, and complex projects have too many variables for something like this. Risk and uncertainty can be high, and it does not include an active feedback mechanism that is easy to use. With that in mind, we are going to move on to the next phase of our design project, which is going to be towards agile development. Agile development, on the other hand, was developed to be flexible, where waterfall is very structured. In Agile, the plan is laid out and then the development is much more fluid, allowing for collaboration, research, feedback mechanisms, and the like to be implemented so the project can go through without a hitch. The plan involves the identification of what the business is looking for in each potential product, as well as in each potential project, as well as an estimation of time and the work that's required for that time for each step. This information can be then used to make certain steps priority and discern which ones can be pursued in which order using factors like technology available or economic feasibility. So if there are budget constraints, it's a much more feasible and fluid model to follow. In the second step, which we'll call design, the funding is distributed and the requirements are discussed with the customer. The timeline is created with various outlines for responsibilities, for team members, what's required as far as manpower, and when work is expected to be completed for each sprint. So sprints are known as a set period of time during certain work has to be done. And made ready for review. The project usually cannot completely move forward without these sprints being done, which is why it's so important that they are established within the design so that they can be prepared for. Each Agile project can have multiple sprints depending on the project scope. Development is the next step, where the teams are creating work based on what the requirements of the customer are, and continuous feedback loops and mechanisms. Each cycle relies on a number of different single development cycles to build upon each other and lead to the next. So this circle of develop, test, deploy, review, this loop can be repeated many more times within an Agile development than just a singular use. The goal is to have a working product at the end of each iteration and then to build on each of them as one progresses. They possess their own workflow, each of these sprints, and it allows for more independent work than just relying on a single iteration. The next step is deploy, where final QA testing, resolution of defects, finalization of the system, and release of the final project are encountered. After this comes reviewing, which changes can constantly be made with to better the software. Hotfixes can be created or client feedback can be taken into consideration. Some pros and cons of Agile include, in its pros, flexibility, embracing uncertainty, immediate feedback, and less defective products as an end. Some cons include the lack of documentation during the development process, scope creep, where there is more and more time that can be demanded of the system each time the project is improved, and the time component itself, where it takes a lot of time generally to do the project in its fulfillment and its improvements. And there's also an inherent lack of predictability, which for some people makes them very nervous about undertaking this as a project. We would be remiss to not talk about DevOps support when we're talking about software development. DevOps support is designed to bring together two frequently used teams with a long history of not getting along well with each other, which include development and operations. Often the goal for this is collaboration, open communication, and finding ways for both departments to meet their respective goals. Additionally, the DevOps has helped improve significantly customer satisfaction, employee productivity, and reduce costs for IT projects. By using DevOps and integrating it into a project model, there is great improvement on employee and team satisfaction, recognition, and collaboration as well. It can smooth out rough processes, speed up tasks, and remove some tensions when it comes to working together on a project. For this particular project, assumptions were made based on our decision to include that there is a deadline expected of the product that needs to be delivered, generally in a timely manner. Usability also implies that there is a component to the software that needs a specific output, and that the software will be utilized by a good number of people for a specific purpose, or that there are specific features that need to be utilized for the software to run correctly. Cost as well is one thing that always needs to be kept into consideration because at the end of the day, time is money, and therefore we want to make sure that the product can be brought to fruition as quickly as possible. For each method, there are different costs associated with it. Based on these assumptions, we can assume that Waterfall will take 45 months to complete, Agile 38, and an off-the-shelf software 6 based on the proposal. The cost per effort for all is the same, while the initial startup purchase for the off-the-shelf is $350,000. The Agile software has 2 months before there can be a working version and 5 months until all currently envisioned features are available. While annual savings are the same with the development methods and slightly less savings with off-the-shelf software. Given all of these parameters, there really is only one that we can decide on, and that makes itself a clear winner. The project management decision that we have elected to go with is an Agile development with DevOps support. With this, we'll be able to blend the based on the needs of the customer, a working product, even though not perfect, after 2 months, which will be plenty of time to get the work to start. And then while the base features are being utilized, the additional features can continue behind the scenes and can continue to be worked on while the product is live. Utilizing DevOps, we're able to provide real-time feedback that can be established and inferred to make the project as functional as it can be and fix bugs in real time as they come up. Additionally, the savings is quite good for this version, and it allows for future updates and fixes to continue, whereas if Waterfall were chosen after the project was completed, it would be done and an entire new project would have to be created. And with off-the-shelf software, there may be more updates, but at a much greater cost, both for purchase and for upkeep. Thank you for listening, and we hope you enjoyed the presentation.